I'm at Broadband World Forum in Amsterdam. I'm here with Michael Philpott from Omdia. Michael, thanks for joining me. You gave a very interesting presentation. You've been doing some work looking at sort of fibre rollout in different countries and comparing them. I mean, do you want to just tell us a bit about that? Because it sounds quite an interesting project that Omdia's got coming up.
Yeah, sure. So it's really about the importance of not just connecting people, but connecting people in a quality way, and the importance really of fibre, not just in the access, but in the core and the backhaul networks to bring that quality. Because there's no point putting things like 5G into the network, for example, if you don't have fibre to that 5G node. So it's really about investing in fibre in all parts of the network. And what we're trying to do is find a kind of a method of measuring the development in each country across all those areas in a standardized way, so countries can learn not just where they sit, but key recommendations for how they get to a more fibre-based gigabit society in the future.
And can you tell us anything more about some of the key findings? I mean, you were talking about different clusters that you'd looked at of how countries sort of measure up in different categories.
Because I say it's important to understand that countries come from a different history, or they have a different history. So it's really important to understand that if you're going to make recommendations to them. So we've done quite a lot of work to try and split them up into these different clusters. So we have a kind of the leading fibre countries that have typically had very stringent and strong national broadband plans backed by government investment, and they have already great fibre coverage and increasing fibre penetration, but there's still work for them to do. They need to move to advanced fibre technology, which will enable them to deliver gigabit speeds down to all their societies. And then you have the kind of cluster 2 countries, which typically are made up of more historically copper-based broadband countries, but are now starting to move increasingly to replace those copper net technologies with fibre. And then, of course, you have the emerging markets, which instead of going the old way of moving to copper, then to fibre, are kind of leapfrogging ahead and moving to fibre-first broadband countries.
Yeah, and you were saying as well, the kind of broadband gap in some cases is actually getting a little bit more extreme, isn't it? We have customers in North America on gigabit speeds, and meanwhile large parts of Africa just don't have anything at all, which sounds potentially worrying.
And it's quite important, and you've got to realise it's not I was only able to present that kind of regional view because I didn't have much time to go into much detail, but it's not just it really comes down to a country by country level, but then also within countries. You get situations where people living in cities will have gigabit type speeds, but then people living in more rural areas will be still stuck on a DSL type connection. And if we want to bring all the advantages to broadband to everyone, then we really need to get those gigabit type speeds to everyone in all countries, really.
Okay, so the work's sort of coming out this week, isn't it? There's a white paper that people can download if they get in touch with you.
That's right. So we purposely developed the index so it was ready for the Broadband Forum, so all the data is ready. And then we've been working on a white paper. That's now in production, so it's really going live in the next couple of days, and it will be free to download to anyone who wants to read that.
Okay, well, I look forward to reading it as well. Thanks,
cool.
Thanks very much for joining me.
Thank you for your time. Thank you.